Okay, Helen, it's great having Tish back.
I know.
You know, the last time she was here with her puppy dog, y'all sat up and talked till 3 in the morning.
Yes, we did.
We did.
We need to do that again so we can catch up.
Girl chat nights.
Yeah, that's right. But we have to have it on the weekend because, you know, to me, late nights for this old girl is tough.
Yeah. Well, we had one last night.
I know we did.
And that was all Stephanie and Pup's fault.
It was
so.
their fault, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to blame it on them. We had nothing to do with it. They drug us into
Right.
the deal. And,
Right.
Tish, it's great having you back here.
It's great to be back in the music room.
And I want to chat with you right off the bat about this new album and tomorrow night at the Kessler because we're going to get this up and on pretty quick.
Yeah.
So tell us all about that. How'd that happen? And tell everybody about it.
We wanted to do some, we weren't real sure exactly when the record was coming out. We knew it was going to be somewhere between spring and summer. And so we talked to people at, you know, our record release show that we had in Austin at the One World Theater. And for Dallas, we talked with the people at the Kessler, and they agreed. So, you know, it was a little bit of touch and go as to whether the record was going to be out in time, et cetera. But it all worked out great. And, you know, well, we were all ready to go. And, you know, of course, we've been practicing the songs a lot, my band and I. And, but, you know, James McMurtry is a long time. We've been friends since he had barely written. He had just started writing songs. He was in his early 20s when we met. He was actually working construction in San Antonio when I met him. He was working carpentry. But anyway, we became friends because he'd come out and listen to me sing. And, you know, he's kind of a quiet guy. And, you know, it was, you know, I always noticed he was listening to the music. So during the break, I'd go talk to him. And we kind of chatted up and became friends. And anyway, from that little period in San Antonio, my husband and I then moved back to New Mexico, and then, you know, he'd follow us up there, and he'd come sleep on our couch in Taos. And so it was during that time I recorded my record Taos to Tennessee, so I recorded his song, Crazy Wind, back then. But we've been friends all through that. We've, you know, raised our children together and all that, too. So we've always been neighbors in Austin.
How did I not run into him? It's like I feel like we know so many people.
We're both old Travis Heights from forever. So he and I would go hang out at the Whip-In. There's that little club with great beer selection in Austin, right around the corner from both of us, called the Whip-In. And we either run into each other or would arrange to meet, like, hey, you gonna go down to the Whip-In tonight? So we'd just go. So over the years, we've just continued to do that. And so I ran into him about a month ago or so, and I said, hey, we're going to be playing a couple of shows. That, you know, it'd be really interesting if, you know, would you mind doing like a solo set for us? Because they kept saying, well, do you want an opening act? I said, I don't know, I'm not sure, you know. And then, so it ended up, that's really quite perfect because of the sound and the tone of his writing and his Southwestern feel that he has of a lot of his material. I think his storytelling and such.
His family is known for that, aren't they?
And the whole Southwesternness of his father's writing and such. It's like, to me, it just, and it's just great. It gives us a chance to hang out. So he opened the One World Theater show for us, and he's also coming up to hang out with us at the Kessler.
So we're going to get to meet him tomorrow.
You're going to, I'll introduce you to my little brother, James. Yeah.
And so the new album, tell us all about that.
So West is it's a wonderful miracle record. I love when records really happen in a very organic way. And to me, it was fixing the guitar, writing my good guitar, and then having this outflow of just like a whole bunch of country songs, you know, that came out during that period, and then remembering about West. And I thought, you know, I think West is what's going to tie this thing together. It has the feel. You know, it's got the story of, you know, the Southwest that I love so much, you know, the desert. And so to me, that kind of, the song West kind of captured the overall feel of the record, but everything else in it was important as my own songs, you know, made their own statements throughout the record. But including a Tim Henderson song from, you know, Austin was really important to my songwriting development. And when I first moved to Austin in the late 80s, one of my first songwriter friends was Tim Henderson, who had been very popular there during the 70s and 80s. And then during my time, so I recorded his song, Maria Consuelo Arroyo. which is a beautiful classic tale of only he can tell stories. He passed away 10 years ago, but I love carrying on his music.
We remember. I mean, we've heard about. We never got to have him in here, but
yeah, Tim was
wasn't because he wouldn't have come. I think we would have had him eventually.
He would have been here, and he's a great storyteller and a beautiful voice and great guitar player, but he's also really funny. So he's great to hang out around with. And then during my time when I first moved to Austin was being friends and peers with my sweet Jimmy LaFave, who is our Oklahoma boy, but Austin and Texas also embraced him. And he and I really kind of came up through that time of the late 80s, early 90s through the Austin music scene. And it was very sad when we lost him last year. And the song that I sang at his memorial was the one that I recorded on here, Only One Angel. So
Nice.
I loved recording that, and everybody in the band had played with him at one time or other. So it was really a beautiful experience for all of us to be in the studio and kind of feel his presence there as we recorded it. And the other song, my guitar player, longtime guitar player Marvin Dykehouse and Chip Dolan, our keyboard player, have been writing quite a lot of music. They have a real crazy band called Grouchy Like Riley, and they have a new record coming out in July.
Oh, funny.
And they write together quite a bit. So this time they let me write a song with them, and that's the closing song on this record. So that was really a real rush to get to work with them that way too as songwriters. And and then my son Adam Barker. Getting to write with my son is always fun, and I love encouraging his art. We love watching our kids develop, as you know.
Marvin used to play with Danny.
Danny Britt.
Danny Britt.
He's the third member of Grouchy.
Oh, okay.
So it's Danny Britt, Chip Dolan, Marvin Dykehouse.
Okay, all right.
That's a funny
Yeah.
name, Grouchy.
Grouchy Like Riley. It's an inside joke in Austin.
Oh, okay.
It's a musician that everybody knows.
Oh, okay.
I don't know him personally,
Okay.
but now I know he's grouchy.
Okay. Well, now
I didn't know that
now
about
I want to
him.
go seek him out. See, how grouchy are you?
Really, this is
So-
that'll be an important. You should have they'd love to come play here. By the way, it would be really good.
Just love to have them. I mean, I guarantee we're booking next year right now.
Okay.
So in fact, we've got you and Karen Mall scheduled
That's
in
right.
January, our
Yes.
first show of the year.
That's going to be
Next
fun.
year.
It is.
What a
I can't believe the two of you have never met.
We've met through music. I think I played. Paul Pierce used to play drums with me,
Right.
and he produced one of her early records. So I know her through other musicians, but I'm not sure that we have met.
He's a great percussionist.
Paul Pierce is
Oh, yeah.
amazing.
I
Amazing
think
drummer.
the first time I saw him was with Terry. Maybe it was with you first, and
Probably
then
with
with Terry.
me. I mean,
Yeah.
not that I'm the beginning of all his life, but
Oh, you're
No,
on that.
but I mean,
too.
you're right. Though. The last time I saw him was with Terry, and the first
Yeah.
time was with you. That's
yeah, he
right.
played with me through the early '90s
Yeah.
and most of the '90s. So yeah,
Yeah.
he's very
And
important.
he's inventive, and he's just right on the money. He's that percussionist that every songwriter would like to have, I think.
Yeah,
So
he's got a great sense of feel and
he finds those
little details.
Yeah,
Those little details.
Now I want to. You were born and raised in San Antonio.
That's right.
You moved to Taos. What took you there?
The move to Taos was an important one. It's like I think we have these patterns in our life of how we grow. And for me, it was having graduated from high school. I went to junior college there in San Antonio. And, school was kind of important to me, but not, I was really, really deeply involved in music. And I was singing on the Riverwalk professionally already. And, I was really enjoying like earning money and, having a job on the, buying my first car and all that stuff. And I was doing really well musically, but it was really all just local. And I was singing cover folk songs on the Riverwalk,
Mm-hmm.
folk and pop and Spanish stuff. And, to me, that wasn't a career. It was a job. And, but it was a great learning job because I learned a lot about performing and, interacting with people and, all that kind of stuff
Right.
about, about being professional, I was playing like 5 nights a week on the river. And, but then as my 20s started rolling around, I started thinking, is this the best I'm ever going to do? Like, I don't want to find myself, as I probably thought. I probably thought like at 30, like, God, I'll be 30 years old and I'll still be singing on the Riverwalk. I don't want to be doing that. So I really...
30 looked a long way
It
away.
did, really. It's like it looked way out there. And so it was so a lot of amazing things happened. That summer of 1979, I went to the Kerrville Folk Festival for the first time, and that Memorial Day weekend. Well, actually, earlier that while I was doing, I said I went to school at San Antonio College, and Rod Kennedy had heard about me, and they have a coffee house series at the college. So every Friday at noon, I got to play an hour set or something, and I actually got paid $50 to sing at school. So people would come, and it was really kind of cool. It was in the cafeteria, or the student union building. And one day, the director of that concert series, she invited Rod Kennedy to listen to me sing, and he came in like in January, whenever that was, and I knew who he was, and it was like God walking into me. Like, I knew he was Rod Kennedy of the Kerrville Folk Festival. I was like, oh, whoa. And so he talked to me, and he said, well, I love your voice, and I'd love to, I would love to have you at the festival, but it's a songwriter festival, and you're gonna have to write some songs. I said, oh wow. I was like, man. He said, what? He said, well, get going. The New Folk Contest is Memorial Day weekend. Get some songs in there. So I had secretly been writing, but I was too shy to play, my own songs in front of people. And so I just kind of gathered up the guts and entered 2 songs. And lo and behold, I got called back and competed. And then I was one of 2 winners that year. It was John Ems and myself.
Oh, cool.
That was to me, that was like the most amazing thing, because I finally felt not shy about calling, said, oh.
Validity.
Yes, it was validation.
Yeah.
Do you remember what 2 songs they were?
I wrote it actually appears on the 1980, because I came back to play main stage in 1980. It's a song called Twilight Serenade, and it's on that record. And to me, it's not that great a song, but it's the beginning. It was the beginning. And I think just lucky for me, I think Rod, it's not the competitive thing it's now, And then it was just more about being part of that whole, Kerrville family. And also I met Bill and Bonnie Hearn, who were wonderful. I knew about them from Austin, and again, I was in awe that they were at the festival.
And Bill's playing with Shake now, right?
Well, Michael Hearn.
Michael Hearn.
His
Okay,
nephew.
that's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
Michael plays.
Okay,
Michael and Shake Russell play together. But so Bill and Bonnie, I was so excited about meeting them, and they were moving up to this little town in New Mexico called Red River. This is a long story. I'm sorry. This is all that Memorial Day weekend of 1979, and they told me that they were moving up to Red River, New Mexico from Austin. And I thought, wow, that sounds really great. I hear that they're skiing. It's the mountains, and and there's a good music scene up there. And Michael Martin Murphy, then he was just Michael Murphy. Michael Murphy lives up there. And so, I was young and unattached, and I thought, what, why not? It's time. It was during that time I was saying, well, do I just want to sing on the Riverwalk forever? Do I think I'm going to get discovered on the river? Or, and I thought, what, I guess it's just time to go have an adventure. So I followed them up, but they left in June, and I was up there by August.
Cool.
And I didn't leave for 10 years. I was up there.
Oh, wow.
And that's when I really developed my songwriting. I went to Nashville from there, because some people in Nashville heard about me through my connections with Michael Murphy. And I began working for Mel Tillis and would go back and forth. And so that's kind of how the whole country connection went with me. And singing backup for Michael Murphy didn't hurt at all. It was very helpful.
Are you on Wildflower?
No, that was before
Okay.
he did that in the 70s. This is
later.
This is the early 80s. And so I learned, again, learning experience, learning about country music. I was like a sponge. I got a job singing at a little restaurant across the street from where Bill and Bonnie were playing. And so I would finish my early happy hour set, and then I'd run across the street to listen to them, because they are the masters of country music. Bill and Bonnie could play. They didn't write stuff, but their performance and their singing was, just top-notch country. Good country, not crappy country. It was really good stuff. They're really good songs.
There is a difference.
Yeah, well, they really were real good. They could, and they were particular about the songs that they chose to sing. And then when they'd finished their set, we'd all go over to the big honky tonk where Michael Murphy's backup band, the Great American Honky Tonk Band, which Michael Hearn was the front man for it. And then that was the big place. You know, they had the big band, and then we'd all go country dancing, and I'd get up and sing all my Ronstadt songs with the band. Emmylou Harris and all that stuff.
Did
So
you
yeah.
did you kind of have when Linda called you about Don DeVoy, or that contact was made? Was there a kind of a flash?
Yeah,
into
sure.
that
This is
period,
Linda
you know?
Ronstadt. That's
Yeah,
what I'd
sure.
say.
No, I mean, did you kind of go back
I've
to when you
had
were
those
singing
moments like, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you were going back to, did you think back to singing her songs and then
Oh,
realize
always,
that
yes.
she was going to be singing one of yours?
Well, I mean, it was a dream, but I never
Right.
thought. I mean, to tell the truth, I've really in my life I've gotten to sing with all my heroes. Christofferson was a hero of mine, and we sang a duet together in 1990. You know, Ronstadt recorded my song. You know, she took me to the studio with her so I could hear her recording it. Joan Baez invited me to sing with her, and she also was, you know. And I was a big John Denver fan too. And when I was like a 16-year-old in high school, I got to go backstage and meet him and play ping pong with him.
Ping pong. That's
Played
funny.
ping pong with John Denver in 1972. So I mean, it's like that. These were like the dreams of my life. Like I've gotten to meet all my heroes, or most of them anyway. But so I imagine my Paul McCartney moment's coming sometime. Right, Paul?
well, you can bring them on with you and come over. Yeah.
We
All
need
get
you to,
together.
Pauline is actually trying to get, I'm trying to get in contact with Michael about doing the second show in January here. So if you talk to him, tell him he needs to do that.
You mean
show.
Michael Hearn?
No, Michael Murphy. Get him.
Pauline's trying to get Michael Murphy to come?
And do a show here with her.
Well, then he should come do one with me.
There we go. I like this. This is getting better all the time.
So while we were recording West, something interesting happened in the studio. We had our 12 songs that we had rehearsed, and we were like, just playing. And as we were setting up, we recorded at the fire station in San Marcos, because I love that studio. It's where I've had my luckiest records, Homeland in '89 and then Culture Swing in '92. And so I wanted to go back and work there. And it's got a big, beautiful central room. So we recorded the old-fashioned way. We just set everything up in the main room, and the full band, like we just played live, and then just went overdub stuff later. But
It's a way to do it, actually.
it's a
Where
good
you
way to
get
make a
your
country
grooves.
record,
Oh, yeah.
especially. But they were having some kind of problem with the mics, or so, as they were setting up. So we were just kind of like sitting around looking at each other like, and while I was thinking of this country record in my head that I was, being inspired to do, I put on like the old Michael Murphy records. I put on Geronimo's Cadillac and the one that has the Alleys of Austin.
Alleys of Austin.
Yeah.
I love that song.
I know. I love all. It's like,
Yeah.
so I really loved listening to that. And then on that record in particular is also What Am I Doing Hanging Around?
Right. The
So-
Michael Nesbitt song.
Yeah, yes. Actually, well, Murphy wrote it, and
Yeah,
Michael
yeah,
and the Monkees
Monkees
recorded
did
it.
that's right.
So we were sitting around looking at each other. I said, "Hey, there's that Murphy song. Remember, that crazy song the Monkees recorded?" And so we're all debating, who wrote it. And I said, we're having bets, like Marvin says. And I think Michael Nesmith wrote it. I'm going, nah, it was Michael. And so anyway, so I said, let's play it. So we just started playing it in the studio just to kill time. And it sounded so good that it became one of the songs on the record.
Cool.
And then on top of that, the icing on the cake was that Michael was coming in. It was during December time. He was doing his Christmas show in New Braunfels. So I got in touch with him and asked him, I said, hey, would you mind stopping in San Marcos and, throwing down a little vocal with me on What Am I Doing Hanging Around? And he loved it, and he sang so well, and we had so much fun with him in the studio. So I get to have my old boss singing with me on my records. It's pretty cool.
So this is kind of you've lived your dreams.
I have lived my dreams. Like
no,
I've
not
met,
everybody can say that. You're really fortunate.
I'm very fortunate. I feel like I have, I'm very happy. I'm very happy.
So just to kind of bring it all to now, you were in Taos and then you came back to Austin.
From Taos we moved, by then, we'd been there, I'd been there, and then I met my husband Craig, and we were both playing together. He was bass playing. We put him through law school, which is what brought us to
remember.
Austin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He had started law school in UNM because we had a second baby by then, and we thought, you know what? I think it's time one of us has a backup career. So we decided, law school for him was a good idea. And so he started at UNM, but then, we decided, we need a little more family support. And by then, I felt a lot more confidence as a songwriter. And, Austin's a tough town unless, you have to be good at what you do to compete in Austin.
Right.
And not that I'm that competitive a person or anything, but I just knew it was important if I wanted to have an audience. And so we thought, well, there's two good reasons to move to Austin. Plus, one of my sisters lived there, and she also had children. We both had small children, too. So I thought, you know what, it'll be good to be with family, and you go to law school, and we'll kind of see what happens with the music thing. And it just seems like magic happened the minute I arrived in Austin. I met Marvin Dykhouse. He started playing guitar with me.
He's a master.
Yes, he's amazing. And then A&M Records heard my music, and I wrote a bunch of songs, and then somehow it got through the channels to A&M Records, and then they come offer me a record deal, and by then, suddenly it's just like when it rains it pours. Craig's in law school, I'm on the road. My daughter's still in diapers, and my son started kindergarten, and everything in the world is happening. But and then one record every single year there was a new record, and it was pretty crazy but beautiful.
Yeah.
And then
chaos.
Fast forward, the next move is Germany.
And then Germany, yes, yeah. Germany happened. We started touring in Europe immediately. Like the record Homeland did really well over there in 1989. So. That began the very early, touring, going to Korea for one thing, and then Europe. The record did really well. So we started touring at least two tours at least a year to Europe, starting in 1990, and that continued all through the 90s. And then in early 2004, Craig and I ended up divorcing in 2000, which was very sad. But 4 years later, I was on tour in Germany. And I met my future husband there, my future German husband, and that was, it was a really wonderful experience at that time, and it was an amazing cultural experience too. I never thought I would live in Europe, or live in Germany, or learn German, or become part of another culture that's very different from mine. If anything, I thought if I ever live in a foreign country, probably Mexico or something, that would make sense. But Germany to me was just kind of like something out of the clear blue. And, I really, as I approach everything in my life, I jump into it enthusiastically, and went to go live over there. And what I love the most about my German life was that I got to spend it in what I consider like one of the most coolest parts of Germany, because it was Hamburg, and it was the old neighborhood where the Beatles had all their experiences back in those early 60s. I actually lived on the street, Clemens-Schultz-Strasse, where the theater where they lived upstairs in that crazy little apartment was right on my block, and the Indra where they used to play is right around the corner, and all this amazing, the Star Club is still there, all these crazy, they still owed a tab at this little bar down the street, and they have it on the wall framed.
Oh, okay.
Actually, Paul went back and paid it. He went back and paid it. Yet later, 2000 or so, whenever that was. But so it's really amazing to have felt connected to such a wonderful part of music history, not just Texas and not just Americana, but like the Beatles history.
Yeah.
Like I was living in their old neighborhood.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So to me, that was my German was that, just getting involved. And I also got involved in the music scene there and played at
And
different
you already
clubs.
had a presence over there because you toured over there.
Right. I had a nice following, so I did touring. I toured in Holland quite a bit while I was there, and I'd go to the UK, and I'd go a little bit to Scandinavia, and just do some tours. Then I'd come back over here and hang out in Austin for a few months and then go back.
And now you're back in Austin.
And now, after about 10 years of a lot of, just trying to keep up life in different, two different places was difficult. And I kind of had to make a choice. I didn't want to abandon my family. My kids were young adults, as I was living over there. And I started thinking, well, what's going to happen when like they get married and they start having children? Am I going to be like that foreign grandma over there in Germany? And I made a decision to come back to Austin, and unfortunately, my husband didn't want to come with me. So that was the end of the German dream.
Yes.
But I've been back since 2013, and then of course the other thing which makes the record West such a kind of rebirth is also because shortly after all that that was a pretty disruptive part of my life when that happened. But then I had these serious health issues that occurred, and crazy surgery accident that almost killed me twice.
Oh, gosh.
So that was 2015, 16. Then finally 17 I started coming back and feeling that I was going to be normal again. It wasn't going to happen again. So having been like this far from the gates of heaven, which I hope were heaven.
Oh yeah.
There were angels, and I hope that those
yeah.
angels were the good ones. They were quite gorgeous and beautiful. And I was that close to making that decision when I was called back to Earth again, and I've always carried that with me because I think I was given another chance. And, and to me, this chance was I'm going to get to see my children, grow more and get to spend more time with people I love and really appreciate life and love and like you said, I already feel blessed because I've done everything in my life that I wanted to.
Your bucket list is pretty much checked off.
What's that?
Your bucket list is pretty
My
much
bucket list is pretty well checked.
This year,
anything
Korea,
from here on is icing. It's like the cake's been good. The cake is really good. So
Well, I can't speak for everybody, but I can tell you we're doggone glad you came to spend this evening with us.
well, thank you all. Thank all of you very much. Thanks for being here and being part of this beautiful family.
And we're looking forward to tomorrow night being with you one more night before we part company until January.
Until
probably.
January. Yes, we'll
And,
have more stories to tell.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. And we want to thank everybody that's here as well. I want to thank Helen for being my partner in all this, and Reno is not here right now because we do this part without him. So Tish, we love you, and you're in the music room.
We're in the music room. Thank you.
All right.